Hello Horror Hounds, as voted for by Randy Mole and Villano 5. This review is for 1974's The Beast Must Die from Amicus, the movie studio that dripped blood. When millionaire businessman and big game hunter Tom Newcliffe invites a disparate group of people to spend a long weekend at an isolated rural English mansion of his with his wife, it's there that he reveals why he invited them and why he's taken the steps he has. And it's because, well, I'll tell you what, Dom DeLuise in Gene Wilder's Haunted Honeymoon explains it much better than I can. So take it away, Dom.
I know that one of you is a werewolf.
Yes, yes, indeed. As the opening of the movie tells you, this is a murder mystery in which you are the detective. But instead of who is the murderer, the question is, who is the werewolf? This is based on a story called There Shall Be No Darkness by James Blish, who I knew was the guy who did the novelizations of the Star Trek original series episodes. And tons of people have quite rightly drawn parallels between this and Agatha Christie's story, And Then There Were None, previously known as 10 Little Soldiers or 10 Little Indians. To my knowledge, which is shaky at best, this is the first Guess the Werewolf film, followed by, as we've seen with Dom DeLuise, Gene Wilder's comedy, which I adore, Haunted Honeymoon, from 1986, and from 1989 even Howling 5, The Rebirth, which sees a group of people trapped in a castle and one of them is a werewolf. I've actually addressed the comparison between Howling 5 and The Beast Must Die previously. Here's what I had to say about that way back in August 2015.
It's not like 10 Little Indians. It's not like The Beast Must Die. I'll tell you exactly what it's like. It's like an extended live-action episode of Scooby-Doo, except this time the big weird dog is killing people one at a time, rather than trying to make a sandwich.
Western horror was in transition during the 70s, moving out of the gothic past of castles and fogs into the present day and the cities and the suburbs. It's fair to say America was taking the lead, leaps and bounds ahead, setting the new aesthetic, forging the new path with Night of the Living Dead, The Exorcist, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Rosemary's Baby, Black Christmas, Halloween, The Omen, leaving British horror and especially the jewel in the British horror crown, Hammer Studios, floundering. And Hammer specifically sort of straddled that divide between old and new somewhat precariously with films like Dracula AD 1972 and The Satanic Rites of Dracula, along with movies like The Devil Rides Out and To the Devil a Daughter. Whereas Hammer, it's generally considered, didn't weather the transition well, Amicus Studios, the studio that dripped blood, always seemed more at home in the post-war class-riven world of the then present day. But with The Beast Must Die, it's clear that they were swinging for the fences of transatlantic appeal on a very, very low budget. As the film opens, there are very strong shades of the TV series The Prisoner, which is no bad thing to my mind because it's my favourite TV series of all time. And then what unfolds, and it's fair to say a sedate pace, is a singularly unique horror, action, mystery, blaxploitation mashup with a sort of funky 70s soundtrack. You know, the kind of movie they don't make anymore. Even with performances from Peter Cushing, Charles Gray, Blofeld in he's Blofeld in Diamonds Are Forever, I think, and he's the bad guy in The Devil Rides Out. He's one of the best things in The Devil Rides Out, and a young Michael Gambon is in this too. Even with all of those lovely performances, it is Calvin Lockhart as business honcho, main man, big game hunter Tom Newcliffe that is having the most fun. He's broad, he's loud, he's brash, he swaggers around, he insists himself upon every frame of this movie that he's in, and he's so much fun to watch. Rewatching it, do you know in my head what I was thinking? Now, anyone who's seen my ranking of the Friday the 13th movies knows that I'm inordinately fond of Jason Goes to Hell. Beyond most people's reason or understanding, I understand that most people loathe it. One of the standout characters in Jason Goes to Hell, surely everyone has a blast with Crichton Duke, okay, the monster hunter, the Jason hunter. If you watched Jason Goes to Hell and wished, instead of pissing over Jason's mythology, could we not just have a Crichton Duke movie? The Beast Must Die, my friends, is the closest thing you will ever get to a Crichton Duke movie. And it is as much fun as you think it would be. One of the things you've got to assess, I think, a werewolf movie on is the werewolf. Call me crazy, but does a werewolf movie live or die by its werewolf? If it does, I should by rights be consigning this movie to the sump tank of cinema history. The werewolf is clearly a German Shepherd dog with some darker, shaggier fur put over it to bulk it out a little. It spends most of the time with its tongue lolling out and jumping over cameras put right down to the ground at low angles to make it seem larger than it is. It's not good. It screams of how tiny the budget was. But a remake with a full-on werewolf and full-on bloody kills and a really tightly scripted sort of Scream-style mystery to it, that would be a blast, wouldn't it? Hey, while I'm thinking about it, why not a short-run TV series of The Beast Must Die in the vein of the Scream TV series or Harper's Island? Get a decent hashtag going, and every week people will be tweeting along with their main suspect for that week until the final reveal in the final episode of who the werewolf is. That would be freaking excellent. If you have to judge this movie based on the werewolf alone, it really deserves a silver bullet put through its head. But there's one reason and one reason alone that I'm not condemning this movie. You've all guessed what it is if you've seen the movie. The Beast Must Die boasts something that I can confidently say no other movie in cinema history has. And that, my friends, is a werewolf break. The director, Paul Annett, hated the werewolf break. It was added at the insistence, he says, of producer Milton, I'm going to have to read this, Subotsky. And I can understand why. The introduction that's added telling you you're the detective and you must identify the werewolf spoils the reveal set up in the plot of why they've all been gathered, because we're told right up front, well, someone's a werewolf. Completely spoils the setting up of that, which unfolds during the first act quite nicely. It completely kills the momentum at the end of the movie. With 15 minutes to go, the werewolf break itself brings the movie to a screeching halt for a full minute, almost exactly like this.
This is the werewolf break. Have you guessed who the werewolf is? Is it Paul Foot? Jan? Davina? Dr. Lundgren? Caroline? You have 30 seconds to give your answer. made up your mind? Let's see if you're right.
I can understand why the director might hate it. It's not part of his vision for the story. It completely screws around with the momentum and the shape of the plot and one of the reveals at the start. But let's be honest, it's one of those William Castle-like gimmicks that you just don't forget. If you see this movie young enough, you might be forgiven for spending the next 20 or 30 years wondering whether you made up that movie that just stops and then asks you to decide which character's the werewolf. It's one of those memories that makes you, later on as a grown-up, seek out the movie to rewatch it. It's a gimmick that is worth it for the looks on other people's faces when you're down the pub trying to explain to them what a werewolf break is and what business it has doing in any movie. You will be able to see behind the eyes of the people listening to you that they don't believe you because it sounds so insane. The werewolf break makes this movie so dear to my heart. Not the late great Peter Cushing, who I adore, because there are dozens and dozens of other movies I can see him in. Calvin Lockhart plus Michael Gambon plus Charles Gray plus Peter Cushing plus a stupid fucking German shepherd dog running around pretending to be a werewolf whilst really going plus the werewolf break makes this, come on, it's not a great movie, but it's so much fun. How can I hate on it? How can I attack it? Look at that face.